Now, from high atop his desk, get ready to peel it all back and get to the root of the subject. No pun intended. With Paul K. on Wine Talks, where he takes no prisoners and calls it the way he sees it.
Hey, welcome to Wine Talk with Paul K. We are in studio today in beautiful Southern California. We're here with Rodrigo Leon of the Los Noques Winery. Introductions in just a minute. Wine Talk's available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, wherever you hang out for your podcasting. And always sponsored by the original Wine of the Month Club, now sporting the Napa and Bordeaux series of wines, but not the reason we're here. We're here to talk to Rodrigo Leon of the Los Noques Wineries. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Paul. Thank you. Thank you very much for hosting me here. It's a pleasure for us to be here, you know.
It's our pleasure. And not only that, you were traveling quite extensively this week, and you stopped on your way back from San Diego, and it looks like on your way to Santa Barbara.
Well, I started in Santa Barbara on Monday, and then LA a couple of days, San Diego, and back to Santa Barbara, and then Chicago next week.
And then Chicago.
That's right.
So was that the whole trip, LA and Chicago, or did you go
I finished in Ohio, and then I had to head back home. That's right.
You know, the big states in America are. By the way, we're in Argentina. I didn't even introduce the fact that the Los Noques is in Argentina, but we have California, Texas, Michigan, Illinois, Florida, New York, New Jersey, and now Ohio has become quite popular with wine. It's kind of an interesting change. So what are you going to do in Ohio? You seeing some stores? Or?
Oh, I didn't know about that. Ohio, it's the importer, which is EBS, owns a winery in Ohio. So I will be hosting a wine dinner in their winery.
A wine dinner in Ohio?
In Ohio, in Sandusky.
You know, I've been to the Midwest, and I've had their wines. Not that great. I'm just kidding.
They tell me it's a completely different style, sweeter.
Yes,
it's something for a different palate, but I think they do pretty well over there.
You know, it's interesting because Prohibition in America in 1933, when it ended December 5th, the first place they went to replant and sort of get the industry going again was the Midwest. It was in the South, Louisiana, Michigan, with grapes that really don't represent what we're capable of doing. But that's not why we're going to talk about. We go on forever. I have a whole speech about the Prohibition. But Mendoza, Argentina, I was doing a little research. The industry's pretty old, about the 15th century, the 16th century that Argentina started making wine.
That's right. We started in those ages, bringing some clones of different varietals. Malbec was one of them, but not the only one. We do have very old Bonardas, Criollas, Tempranillos, and Argentina became very well known because of the Malbec, which is our flagship.
Right.
But I can tell you that the soil and the weather, it's beautiful for every other varietals as well. Of course, there is a lot of room to improve, but we do have beautiful Cabernets, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, whites. Argentina is growing in terms of quality more and more.
It seems to be, and I was looking... in these wines here, by the way, the listeners can't see them, but it's a partial rack of some of our older selections. But as you can see, the Carrascal up there, 1977.
From yeah, I know the winery.
So that was one of our first Argentinian selections that my father bought in like 1980. The wine was already 3 or 4 years old, and I went back to look to see what the modern times of Argentinian wine really is rather contemporary. It's rather new to create quality wines, worldwide quality wines in Argentina, because its original wines were really just for local consumption. Is that accurate?
Yes, exactly. If you when we started in the 60s, you just made a wine, like a bulk wine without a specific varietal. That is something that came, I think, in the 80s. By the beginning of the 80s, there were some wineries that started with their Cabernet Sauvignon, their Malbec. I think it was pretty similar that what happened with Robert Mondavi here in the United States at that age.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And from that time, we started with the varietals. But when we started, for example, we have a 60-year-old vine of Bonarda, and at that time you planted one Bonarda and one Tempranillo. The Bonarda matures very, very late, and the Tempranillo matures very, very early. So then you harvest it just in the middle, and you make the wine, and you get whatever you can. That's it. Yeah, that was the case.
That's very scientific. We don't want to work too hard and have two harvests now, do we? We just go ahead. Well, that's interesting. So, but that is. It's interesting to the extent that is a bulk region, and I think a lot of that story is pretty old. The south of France was sort of like that. The south of Italy is sort of like that. California was kind of like that for a long time, where they start out making just a lot of wine without paying attention to necessarily the terroir or the grape varietal, and then all of a sudden now we start to make refined things. So the winery started in 1962, I think, right?
The vineyards.
The vineyards.
Yeah. At that point, my grandfather started with this small piece of land that now is called Finca Don Juan in honor of him, planting vines and planting different type of fruit. That was the fincas at that time.
Yeah.
Over the time, we reconverted everything to vineyards. But we sold the grapes for more than 50 years until we decided in the early 2000s to start our own winery. We bought a vineyard very close from where we are to build a winery there. But finally, we get in love with another winery that is in La Consulta, also in Uco Valley, made in a French style in 1938, small concrete tanks in the top, a 4-meter underground cellar where the temperature is cold the whole year. You know, Mendoza is a desert. It can become very hot and it's humid. And you don't have humidity in the desert. So it's a great place for our bottles and for our barrels. And we keep the wines there until they're ready.
Define finca.
Finca it's like a vineyard. It's a bigger than vineyard because you can have a finca of plums or other.
I see. So it's a general agricultural planting.
Exactly.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And then you just said something that you glossed over, but the cellar in this French style winery is 4 meters tall. Is that what it is? Or 4 meters down?
It's 4 meters underground.
So 12 feet underground. What?
Yeah, that's
amazing.
Right. That's
over
right.
12 feet. Uco Valley's, we get a lot of wine here. I taste every Tuesdays. I taste 300 wines a month. I've been doing it for 30 years. And a lot of wine that's labeled Mendoza, and then some is specific, Uco Valley, Casablanca, Salta, whatever, right? But Mendoza's pretty big.
Yes.
Do we know how many square meters it is or square kilometers it is?
What I can tell you is probably Uco Valley is 4 or 5 times the size of Napa Valley.
Yeah, just the Uco Valley.
Just Uco Valley, yeah. And you do have there some different appellations, which as well as you have it in Napa, you have Santa Elena, you have Rutherford. There you have Gualtallarí, where our vineyards are, and it became now very popular because it's very close to the Tupungato, to the Andes, the Tupungato volcano. So there is a lot of minerality there, calcareous soils, and you get that when you drink our wines. But also there are other beautiful appellations like Altamira, La Consulta, where our winery is, Chacaches. So Uco Valley is expressing very different appellations and very different flavors in the same valley. Of course, you have Luján de Cuyo, where everything started, what we call Zone 1. everything.
Zone 1.
Zone 1. Everything started in Luján de Cuyo. You have Maipú. I mean, Mendoza is broad in terms of different terroirs.
So if I was to start at the southern end of the Mendoza, where that can grow grapes, I mean, a part of the southern part of Mendoza that you can actually grow wine grapes.
It's San Rafael.
San Rafael.
Yeah.
And as high as, if I go north to...
If you go north, I would say not that north. It's probably
Salta?
Well, north it's not Mendoza. You have San Juan, you have Salta, and you also have Jujuy, which is the northern part of Argentina, where you have vineyards at about 6,000 feet.
Yeah, that's really
of
cold.
Altitude. Yeah.
So Salta's not in Mendoza.
No, it's another province.
Region.
It's a different state.
Okay,
That's
so Mendoza. What's the northernmost vineyard area in Mendoza itself?
In Mendoza, I would say that the north is what you have there in Luján, Maipú, or if you go to the west, maybe San Martín.
Okay.
You don't have anything northern. Now there are some projects, very interesting project in another valley in north, which is called Uspallata. And you can find very fine wines from there as well.
Well, okay. So I've never been. Okay, and I have to go.
Let me know. Let me know when you
South
go.
America. It's a must go place for me. So, and I was teasing you when we started this conversation that if you follow the Andes and everything west of the top of the Andes is in Chile and everything on the east is Argentina, and I thought, wow, the Chileans really got ripped off here. They only got a narrow swath of land, but wasn't it the religious pope that did that drew the line? Do you know
about Chile?
How did that line get drawn?
Mendoza used to, but that was a few years ago in the 90s. But Mendoza used to be ruled by the Capitanía of Chile. When the Spaniards were there, Mendoza was not ruled by Buenos Aires or
really? Okay.
Rio de la Plata. Was ruled by Chile. When liberated from Spain, then Mendoza became part of Argentina, and yes, there was negotiations on where are the limits regarding the Cordillera, the Andes.
I mean, I guess it makes sense that you get the snowfall, you get the water, you get everybody gets to share their side.
On both sides. Yes,
on both sides, right? I always bring that up because I always thought it was interesting. But that must do some amazing things to the terroir, the snowfall, the water that flows down, the alluvial fans that are created at the base of the mountains with soil and nutrients.
The water, it's of course the base of the feed of each vine, and it's everything comes from different napas that comes from the Andes. So it's the melting of the snow. It's beautiful there. If you take our water and you analyze the water, you will see that it's very pure, no salt there. It's a really very good for the vines. What is interesting also, it's Mendoza is a desert, so the water is essential. So everybody is going to drip irrigation right now. When we started in the 60s, everything was a flood. We reconvert the vines by the end of the 90s, everything to drip irrigation. Also in the winery, we are using the water that we use for the process. We recycle it to irrigate our own gardens. Right now, it's key to be very conscient about nature.
So the sustainable movement.
Exactly.
But why? I'm just thinking, if it's a desert and let me back up. I got so many questions. I don't know which ones to start with. Let's go with the idea that if there's sustainable farming and sustainable management of your winery, are there organizations among the wineries in Argentina or government organizations that control not only necessarily the quality, but control the processes, maybe check in on you once in a while to see what you're doing? Is there a protection of, let's say, the wineries of the Uco Valley, that you're doing something right for the Uco Valley?
There is, of course, a governmental institution that rules the wine industry in terms of what can you do or what you cannot do. And then the province has their own controls. I mean, that is national. But then you have Mendoza, which has their own controls in terms of irrigation, for instance. What can you do and what you can't do in the winery? Let's say you can't dump the water that you don't use. You have to treat it. So those kind of things.
I see. Okay. So as far as the Uco Valley itself, and we consider the Napa Valley one of the premium regions of Mendoza, the Uco Valley, right?
Yes. So right now it's becoming more and more popular because of these appellation things that I've been telling you, and the quality of the wines.
Yeah. Which were very good, by the way.
Thank you.
In fact, one of my comments I wrote down was the Los Noques wines seemed to me to be the most terroir-driven wines I've had from Argentina, and it bodes well for the idea that the industry isn't that old, really, and it takes a long time to understand the terroir of a vineyard, whether it's in Argentina, France, or California. It takes a long time to understand what that vineyard is going to do, and so if you can end up with wines that are terroir driven, rather young in its life cycle, though. I mean, 1962, the grapes started growing, but when did you start making wine there?
We started in 2007. The first
so
after
really, it's very young.
Yeah, it is. After we refurbished all the winery, we put the best technology we could at that moment. Our first edition was Bonarda, a 60-year-old Bonarda that my grandfather planted, and we made only 4 barrels.
Wow!
Each barrel is 300 bottles, so
right.
It was nothing. So, but what you were saying is right. Every change that you make in the vineyard takes at least 1 year to understand the results. So,
well, besides all the other variables, right?
Yeah, of course.
Your change is one thing, but what about weather?
The weather. Well, we everything we produce is single vineyard and state bottles. So when you say terroir driven, well, what you have in our wines is what you can find in our small piece of land. That's what we want to show to the world, the unique part of where we are.
It's a pretty noble pursuit, because most, and I was going to talk about this, but we can talk about it now, the wide swath, the wide distance between the wines from Argentina is no different than any other country. I mean, California does the same thing, and the French as well. But I get Malbec in here, and it's thin and insipid and tired and just not very good. And then I get gorgeous wines like the ones you make, and I always want to understand people like you that come into this industry to produce the best that the land will give you. Where did that come from?
Well, it's a part of the concept that we want to transmit. What we do, Paul. We are 10 people. That's
wow.
You have 5 people in the vineyard, and 4 people in the winery, and people in administration, myself. That's it. Not now that we are in the middle of the harvest. We hire more, but and we try to show what we can do with our line. Not every year we have a wine, Paul. If we don't like the vintage, we just sell the grapes. I mean, of course, every year the nature make different things, but you need to make sure that the what we put in the bottle represent the style we want. So if it rains a lot 1 year and some grapes they don't mature, we just don't sell, don't put our names on the label. My name
That's
is
expensive.
It's on each label. Well, we try to keep it that way. That's what we try to keep. That's why everything is single vineyard, and of course, it has a value.
Was that your father's dream? Or did he just want to play
It's
with the grapes?
it's many dreams, Paul. It's my grandfather with the grapes. My
Your
father,
grandfather, right? I'm sorry, your
my
grandfather.
father investing in the winery. Where I am the third generation. For us, is much more than business. Being here in the most important market of the world, California,
Yeah.
is fast to us. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So being here, competing with everybody in the world, for us, it's an honor. We do it humbly. You know, we are microscopic, but being here is, believe
just being here
me,
feels good, huh?
it's a dream of many
Yeah.
of us.
What's the production now?
We produce less than 5,000 cases per year. That's total production on
That's
the whole.
That's pretty amazing that you're here.
Yeah. Well,
with a 5,000 case production.
I have to thank our importer
Your
that
esteemed importer who's here
trusted
today.
us. Yes, we have been selling our wines in the United States since 2016 in the East Coast. So we do have a very, very good customers in Tennessee, in Virginia.
Interesting.
So we started that way.
So let's go back to your grandfather for a second. Some people live the dream. Some people want to earn the dream. Some people want to buy the dream. Some people just have this affinity towards farming, and that's what we are, right? We're farmers here when we're making wine. The vinification process is nature's way of solving human problems. So for making us feel better about ourselves.
Yeah.
But what was your grandfather's idea? He wanted to just get in the industry, or he saw some beauty in the soil and somewhere in Uco Valley that he decided to do this? What was he doing before?
My grandfather was a metal worker.
A metal worker.
Yeah, he made presses. He made pumps. In fact, you will go to some old wineries in Argentina, and you will still find some pumps that my grandfather
So he's a tool
built,
maker,
and they are working.
Wow.
and they are 50 years old or 40
That's
years old,
phenomenal.
and they are working. So he decided this more like a hobby, you know. Because our family has a very long tradition in around the area in Uco Valley, in Tupungato. So he started with this Finca Don Juan, which is about 70 hectares. Now in total we have about 220 hectares. Not everything with vines. But he started with that vineyard. I would say at his point, or at his age, he took this. I mean, he couldn't stay in his house. That's the main reason.
That's the bottom line. Okay,
on Saturdays he had to go to Tupungato. When I was a child, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, sometimes I got with him. Of course, my work there was just through stones to a lake, but
wow,
he
had
to move. Yeah, at that age.
Yeah, that's good work. But so he had the calling for this.
Yeah, and then again he planted vines, but he also planted plums, apple trees, and. Well, at some point in the 80s, we decided to go everything to vines. Then my uncle also and my father started to take care of the vineyard, and then is when we developed the idea of the varietals. At the same time that in Argentina we were developing the idea of the varietals of making different wines, when we decided, okay, let's go to Malbec, let's go to Cabernets, let's go to those kind of varietals. But we continue selling the grapes until the 2000 and
is Uco. So Tupungato is the larger area. The Uco Valley is inside Tupungato.
It's Uco Valley is the larger area. Tupungato is it's an area where you have the village, you have the Vulcano there, and it's a part of the Uco Valley.
I see. Was it known for other, crops other than grapes at that time? You said plums and other things, but was it known for that?
Well, Uco Valley has a lot of fruit.
A lot of different fruits.
Yeah. Peaches,
So it's fertile soil.
Yes, and potatoes and onions and
Wow,
carrots. Uco Valley is very well garlic, very well known for many other.
Interesting. Okay, and you still have those on the ground or no?
We do have a little a part of the vineyard where we have some what we call chacra, which is this carrots or
Chacra.
Chacra. That's right.
There's a winery called Bodega Chacra.
Chacra. Yeah, from Patagonia.
Yeah,
from Patagonia. Well,
Patagonia.
but the concept is you plant potatoes, you plant carrots, you plant garlic. That's a chacra.
Interesting. Okay, I get it now. So, it's interesting because you're third generation. First of all, not that the industry is that old in Argentina, as we just established. The winery's not that old. It's, 50 years now, 60 years, which is getting on. You're starting to figure out what this thing can do. But you're being third generation, in European standards, that's, starting to get old. California standards, that's pretty old because there aren't too many third generation wineries in California at all. Many of them second generation, but not third. What were you doing, or were you always going to be doing this?
I'm an electronic engineer.
Oh, that answers that question.
I worked 15 years for a telecommunications company, and I decided to retire in 2006 when we were buying the winery and putting on that technology in it. So it was another business unit that we had to develop, and then is when I enter in the business. So I believe, beside walking the vineyard with my grandfather, I believe I am pretty young in the industry. But if you ask me what do I want to do, I want to work in this business, and I hope that one of my sons or my siblings take this sometime and they continue.
That's a good question,
because that means that you transcend,
Yeah, that's a good question though, because I see a lot of legacy here in the industry. Everybody tends to come back to it. And you were an electronical engineer, and you decided, wow, the calling is now. And your sons may do the same. They may go off and learn something else, and then realize, wow, the family business is pretty cool, and it kind of takes me back to my roots. Even Robert Mondavi Jr., the grandson of the great Robert Mondavi, had done something else before he came back to his father's winery. So it's a pretty interesting trek, and it happens all the time in this industry.
I think it's important that you make your own experience.
Yeah.
And then if you want, you can come to the family business. Right. Yeah, it's of course you can't push anybody.
Right.
Of course, you might want to do it, but
you can't.
You can't. But I think it's before that. It's very important that you make your own experience in your own way, and then if you want.
I've had two winemakers here. One of them very famous, the Tétanger of Champagne House, who the vineyard and the winery left the family and then repurchased by the family, which is fascinating stories for me. And how you can afford to buy the Tétanger, but and then the kids coming back and saying, yeah, this is what my ancestors did. I want to do it too. That's pretty cool. I love the story.
There is a lot of that in Mendoza.
Is there?
Yeah. You will see that very well-known families, they sold a huge family winery, and then there are four brothers. The four brothers built their own wineries by themselves.
That's great.
There are a lot of crazy stories about that.
Well, no, it is about the story. Yeah. And we were talking about the quality of wine, the quality of the terroir, but the reason your family's doing this, the wines you're putting out to express where they're from, is really the stories that we want to hear, and the kinds of wines we want to taste that make us think about something else, that make us remember something, that make us think about an experience we might have had before. Maybe it's the trip to Argentina when I come to stay at your house.
Whenever you want. I told you just when we started. I don't know if you were filming, but I would love to
Okay,
to receive you in Buenos
Jesus.
Aires or in Mendoza.
I always ask that question. Like,
Oh yeah.
sometimes they show me a picture of the chateau. I go, "Oh, that must be the guest room up
The
here on the
guest room,
top floor, right?" So,
Well, we are very small. We don't
Okay.
have that, but if you come,
We'll
what
go
I
down the
promise
street.
you, I cannot not only pour wine, but I can only cook for you.
All
Okay.
right, I'll get some chimichanga and some
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 asado,
steak.
some yeah, that's right, exactly.
Pollo asado. No, lomo saltado. That's Peruvian, I think. All right, so 5,000 cases. You're in America selling wines. It's a very tough market. Particularly in California, where we've got a thriving industry on our own. How is that for you guys? Is it just headwind after headwind, or do you feel successful in getting your wines here?
It is. We have been growing in the last few years.
Mhm.
I mean, if we met 3 years ago, I would say I am making maybe 2,000 cases.
Yeah.
We are trying to go, and that has to do with my telecommunications experience.
Mhm.
Try to understand what the customer needs and develop a product, and that's why we grew. The Sauvignon Blanc, you taste it. And we have made that Sauvignon Blanc for the last 2 years. The Cabernet Sauvignon, it's also 2 years.
Mhm.
We develop a Pinot Noir, a Rosé that is coming. We only made it in 2021.
Wow.
We are growing based on our customer needs. As long as we can keep what we want, the single vineyard and state bottle, and pick the grapes from our vineyards. Now we sell 3/4 of the grapes we produce, and we also and from what goes to our winery, we also sell part of the wine. What we keep for ourselves, for Los Noques, it's a very small quantity.
So it's Sauvignon Blanc, the Cabernet Franc, which I just thought that was fabulous. The Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, and a rosé is coming.
Rosé, you have a Malbec estate.
Malbec.
You also tasted our winemaker's blend, which is like the heart of what we have in the vineyard, because it's a blend
That
of
was
the
excellent.
60-year-old Bonarda, Merlot, and Malbec. And then the Finca Don Juan, which is our Grand Reserve. We do have a reserve line, not here in California, but with a Malbec, a Bonarda, 100% Bonarda, and a Pinot Noir.
Wow.
And the Finca Don Juan, we produce 10, 12 barrels per year of that wine, which is
very little. Bonarda is a tough animal. So and I
Yeah, it
remember
is.
the blend.
It is.
Your blend, you were able to balance that acidic, pretty aggressive grape with the Malbec. It was. I remember this.
You round it with the Merlot
Yeah.
and the Malbec.
I
Yeah,
remember.
that's it. Yeah.
It's funny how you remember wines. It's interesting.
Well, that blend, you don't see it. You don't see that blend a lot.
No, you don't see it much. So I've always been fascinated with the idea that Malbec, being a Bordeaux varietal and a French varietal, and really not used that much in Bordeaux. It's used in other parts of France. But how does the story go? I know the Spaniards brought things like Mission Grape and the Bonarda to Argentina to plant, but why did Malbec take? Was it just because it did well in the terroir, or it was a character about the grape that the Argentinians liked? What do you know the story behind that?
What I can tell you is that the soil and the weather and the terroir make much more to the wine than the genetics. If you taste the
really?
Malbec, from Luján de Cuyo, from Maipú, from Uco Valley, these different appellations, and also in the same vineyard, you can harvest early, you can harvest late, you can treat the vineyard differently, and you will think that you are drinking different grapes.
Yeah.
So the soil, the weather, that's 80% of what you get in the bottle.
It's fascinating. And my friends get mad at me for saying that all the time, but it is fascinating. And I
at least in my own opinion,
No, but you're right. And I think for the first time, and I've tasted like 100,000 wines, okay, literally. The other day, and I taste on Tuesdays, I was tasting a wine, and I brought this up in another podcast, and it was the first time I really felt this. And this is the following. It was an unusual grape. I can't remember what it was for the area that I was tasting from. So somebody brought a grape in, planted it, cultivated it, made a wine from it. Mm-hmm. And there weren't any flaws. The balance was good. I didn't sense any manipulation. But what I sensed was this grape just doesn't like this terroir very much, you know? And I thought, it just doesn't work together. Because I could taste the terroir and you could taste the grape. And I thought, and that was really the first time I experienced that thought when I tasted a wine. Do you think that's possible?
I think it takes a lot of time to know. You know, when you make a decision in the vineyard, it takes at least between 7 to 10 years to have the results.
Right. That's true.
So it's that's why I think the Baron de Rothschild says that the wine industry is easy after the first 200 years.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right. That's a good point. Well, I've told the story before, but very good friend. She has a winery in Armenia, which is my heritage, and she hired Michel Roland as the consulting enologist, and he told her, yes, grapes will grow here. They could be good. Let's wait 100 years and find out. and that's, but you guys are 60 years into it now. So, you've got a track record.
Yes. And that's why we have a Bonarda reserve, which is not very common.
That's true. Yes. How is the Bonarda when you pick it? Tell me about the grape Bonarda, because I don't know much about it.
The Bonarda is a grape that it loads a lot. The clusters are big
clusters.
Big clusters, big bunches. Yeah. So you need to trim it if you want to mature, because also the Bonarda matures very, very late. It's the last one that we harvest. We normally harvest by the end of April, sometimes in May. In May, you have frost, so you need to be very careful.
Hold that thought a second. For you listeners, don't forget, they're south of the equator, so they harvest in May and April and May, not in September and August.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So you need to trim a lot to make sure that each vine gives as much as possible to each cluster.
Oh, that's interesting, because of the size of the cluster.
We have it in high trellis, so it is good. You have to make sure that the sun is there. It's a very, very strong, very big plants. The thickness of our vines of Bonarda could be this big.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's 60-year-old tree.
They get huge, but that's
so.
big.
So yeah, they're very big. And again, then you go to the winery, it's low alcohol. You will not get more than 13.5 alcohol.
Really?
It's dark. It's very dark. It has a great color.
The skin is thick.
It's skin. All the skins where we are will be thicker than normal. It's very high altitude, 3,500 feet.
Yes.
So thermal amplitude between the day and the night could be 30 Fahrenheit or more.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
That's a lot.
So the skin grows thicker to protect the fruit.
Yes.
And then everything is in the skin: the color, the tannins, the polyphenols, everything but the sugar. So. Yeah. When you can work properly with the skin is when you have a lot of power in terms of fruit, good tannins. That's a characteristic in general of the wines that you can have in Uco Valley. In the case of the Bonarda, because it matures very late, you also need to make sure that the sanity is very good, because with a lot of sugar, you need to make sure that you can keep it safe and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, speaking of health, it is considered when you consider the health benefits of drinking wine, as exposed in the Mediterranean lifestyle in 1990. Bonarda is considered the healthiest grape in that regard.
I didn't know that.
Yes, for you know, for clearing out the arteries, or at least helping your blood resist clotting or sticking to the cells. So it's known for that. Now, most of them are very hard to drink by themselves, right? They're very strong.
I know a few doctors. I will tell that, so they prescribe my Bonarda.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Wait, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gonna ask you a question from this book, which is a French doctor from the 70s, and we're gonna test that theory right now. But tell me, you talk about pruning in the canopy, particularly with Bonarda, because the clusters are so large. But have you sensed a change in harvest time because of the climate change, or has not affected south of the equator yet?
No, it does. It
Yeah?
does. Yeah, climate change. What is doing that is that it's raining in summer.
Really? Wow.
The last 2 years, for instance, 2022 and this year, it started to rain in January. In fact, 2021, we had snowstorms in the Andes
Wow.
in January.
Yeah. Wow.
And then in the winter, almost no snow whatsoever. So it's a challenge.
Yes.
Because you need to spray more, and you need to maintain the grapes a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, it's a little bit hot. It's starting to be warmer, and that makes that the sugar goes up very, very fast. So what you need to do, at least in our case, and the way we want to pick the grapes, it's not only you need the sugar, but also you need the maturity, the polyphenols, what gives you the flavors.
Yes.
So you need to wait until that point, and that is
tricky.
something that is changing.
Yeah, that's tricky.
Also, we are seeing that the harvest season is shorter. Shorter, yeah. We finished this week harvesting Merlot and Syrah, and some Malbec and Cabernet from our vineyard are almost ready. We are organizing to start the harvest.
And you left town. How do you do that?
Well, yeah,
I'm out of here.
That's a good question. That's why, because we are 5 hours behind. At 5 a.m. in the morning, I have some calls. Yeah.
Get home soon is what they're telling you. So you said something interesting about spraying, and there's a movement, and I haven't seen but a few organic or biodynamic wines from Argentina. There's been some. Is there an awareness of that? I mean, we talked about sustainability, which is important, I think, for any industry, including wine. Is there any movement to the organic world? And I'm not sure that I agree with all of that stuff anyway, but what's going on over there for that?
Yes, it is. You see more and more wineries trying to be organic. In fact, where we have the Cabernet Franc, which is our smallest vineyard, it's about 15 acres. Not of Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc, we have maybe 3 acres right now. But we want to start the organic process to certify organic. You need to prepare the vineyard first, and then you go through the process. Also, in the winery, we are working. We have a project to put solar panels in the roof of the winery. Not because we will be saving money in energy. That is not the case. You will not repay that investment, but we understand that it's a process that we need to move in that direction.
Yeah.
We know what is going on with climate change.
Yeah.
I've been in Mendoza since I was born 50 years ago, and the snow in the mountains is less and less. So the glaciers are going deeper and deeper. So it's something that is happening.
You know, there's a lot of discussion about that in in the world besides just the wine world. But I had a French winemaker here from the Mediterranean side of France, and he was saying that since he was a kid, the water level has risen at the beaches on the French Riviera to where it used to be a long walk to get to the water. Now it's a short walk.
No, so, yeah.
I said, well, that's funny because I grew up at the beach here, and it used to be a short walk to the water. Now it's a long walk.
Long walk.
So I said, we just push the water down and send it over there. Because there's no new water in the world. It's all the same water, right?
Yeah, right.
So
anyway. That's curious. Yeah, that's curious.
I thought that was pretty funny. We're coming on 40. Actually, we're past 45 minutes, so I don't want to keep any longer. But I do want to ask you a question from this book, because this is fascinating, and I have a lot of fun with it. This is a book written in French originally, and then it became written in English, and it's from about 72 or 73, Dr. Maury, and he was a regular MD, a scientific MD, but also sort of a holistic guy. And so what he has here is a list of human ailments, diseases, and the wine that would be prescribed, since you want the doctor to prescribe Bonarda for heart conditions, and the dosage of that wine.
The dosage.
So now there's no, because this is probably before he was aware of the wines from Argentina, I'm going to use the Medoc, because they grew Malbec in the Medoc. All right. So what would you cure? I'm going to give you three choices with Medoc. Would you cure bronchitis, fever, or allergies?
Probably bronchitis.
Wow.
No?
That's Burgundy.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not an expert.
Well, no one's ever gotten it right, by the way. It would be allergies. Now,
allergies, okay.
Now, other wines from Bordeaux, which could have Malbec, would have been menopause. I don't know how you cure that. Nervous depression. I don't know how you cure that, but maybe it helps. Nervous depression would be another Medoc wine. Now, so then, what do you think the dosage would be for one of those? Like, we don't do milligrams here. We're going to talk about glasses.
Liters.
Yeah.
For depression, well, it depends, but
constant.
Probably a couple of glasses, I would say.
It's showing 4 glasses a day.
4 glasses a day.
Which hardly seems enough, right?
Well, it's a bottle. Yeah.
That's right. That's true. It's a bottle. And you can't tell from the picture whether it's a big glass. Anyway, I have a lot of fun with this.
I will take a picture of that.
Yes, sure. You're welcome to. Yeah. It's a pleasure having you on the show, and I wish you good luck in the travels. And I know you're busy, and I appreciate you stopping here on the way, because it's it'd be easy to say, I got to go to the hotel and take a nap.
Paul, again, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure for us to have this opportunity. I am the face of this winery, but behind me there is a lot of faces also that. We try to make the best we can to show these wines to the market, and I will be here because I want to make sure that our Los Noques is well known. So I hope to see you soon.
Well, we may meet the rest of the family.
Either here or Buenos Aires or Mendoza.
We may meet the rest of the family one of these days. Yeah. The wines are excellent for the listeners. And the Sauvignon Blanc's coming in soon, and hopefully we can get to the rest as well. But and most fascinating with the Cabernet Franc, I thought that was really, really fascinating. So, cheers. Thank you for listening to Wine Talks with Paul Kalamkarian. Don't forget to subscribe, because there's more great interviews on their way. And of course, all these podcasts are sponsored by the Original Wine of the Month Club, 48 years in business. Don't forget to visit our website, wineofthemonthclub.com. Folks, have a great time out there in the wine world. Cheers.